that grief is real and that grief really does impact us. Grief is so much more than sadness. It impacts so many layers of our lives.
Families forever changed by COVID-19. Counselors are saying the isolation during this time of immense loss further complicates the grieving.
In response to that grief, Baptist is starting grief sessions specifically for those who lost a loved one to COVID-19.
Our Janae Lewis shows us how this helps people through a tough time.
Kenny and Anita Hauk married in 1975. The pictures tell their love story through the years, a lifetime built on integrity, faith, and love.
Every journey begins with one step.
Their journey led to a life of devotion until Kenny's death in October of 2018. And Anita initially tried to tackle her grief alone.
The first step. And I was reluctant. As I say, my husband had passed for 15 months before I just couldn't do it. Prayer couldn't do it.
So she reached out to the Baptist Centers for Good Grief, where she started sessions with a grief counselor last February.
So it has been really helpful for me to feel like I'm still trying to put the pieces back together.
But just a month into those sessions, Shelby County would learn of its first COVID-19 case, changing everything in our lives, including how we grieve. Like most places, Baptist had to adapt, continuing those services through virtual grief sessions.
Grief is lonely and isolating when we're not in a pandemic. And then you add the pandemic to it, and that takes grief to extremes.
With many people having to say goodbye to their loved ones over the phone or through FaceTime due to COVID-19 restrictions, further complicating their grief. Then there's the lingering fear associated with the virus itself.
What we're seeing with so many people is really what we call grief overload. And that is, grieving the death of their loved one from COVID-19, but also, continuing to grieve because COVID-19 has not gone away.
In less than a year, the Shelby County Health Department reports more than 1,000 people have died from COVID-19. A number that grows each day.
When you have a loved one who has died from COVID-19, you think, well, what if someone else in my family gets sick and dies, or what if I do?
Which is why the center has now announced a 6-week virtual support group for those grieving the loss of a loved one due to COVID-19. It's opened the door for people to connect and begin the healing process.
As people are at home and they have the photos of their loved ones right there. And so there really has been some very meaningful sharing and a lot of healing able to happen over the virtual platform.
Powerful healing Anita Hauk has experienced.
How do you feel after each session?
I was very surprised that I felt grateful instead of just crushed.
Especially considering she was initially reluctant to even participate.
I'm not a group person. I'm not much of a joiner, but it was really helpful to hear other people's stories, to get their encouragement, to get that uplift, not only from the counselors who are excellent, but from the other people who have losses.
A new bond, at times without uttering a single word.
Silence is okay. In fact, there have been 2 people that I know of who absolutely had nothing to say during a whole session.
Because grief, too, is a journey.
It is our job to join people where they are in their grief journey. It's not our journey. We're not here to force them somewhere. We're to join them where they are and to walk that with them.
A journey with ups and downs, highs and lows.
Grieving, mourning, it is exhausting. It is exhausting. And that's what we need to know among ourselves, that we're not going crazy. This is real.
And that what you're feeling is okay.
COVID is real. The grieving is real. And I just think we have to be vulnerable in order to heal.
A journey on a destination of peace. Reporting in Memphis, Janae Lewis, WREG News Channel 3.
Thanks so much to Anita for sharing that personal story. The 1-hour weekly sessions start this Thursday. And if you want to learn more, we have a phone number on WREG.com. Just click on this story.